Microsoft Excel. Working with a formula match. Match by itself really doesn't do too much. Match is used in conjunction with other formulas. So let's look at this. So what we're going to do with the match formula is we're going to look at a cell value, and then we're going to compare it to a data table, and then we'll say, do we want a value that's greater than, exact, or less than? So again, we say, what is the value we want to look at? And then we look at whether it's a row or a column. We're going to do that. And then we're going to say, what type of match? Do we want it to be equal to or greater than? Or do we want it to be an exact match or equal to or less than? So let me go over and look at our information here. We have already used in a previous video the formula VLOOKUP, and there you can see it in our formula bar that we've used a VLOOKUP. This has worked really well for us, no problems. But when it comes to getting the option for an oversized rod or a standard rod, that's where we start looking and saying, well, which option do I want to choose? Now, match by itself won't do that. You'll have to watch the index video for it to automatically pull in the rod size. But we first need to do match to be able to do index. So this is focused on match. So let me look at something here with you. I'm going to go and find out what row and column the information is in that I want to look at. I'm going to go over to my sheet number 3 here. I'm going to look and say, what is the row? The rows are the numbers. We're coming down the side here. That's the rows. So I can say, which row is this in? And with this information, I'm going to look at the rows and go, well, I've got row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so I can count down, and what I'll do is I'll say match the number. So it'll come down and look at the number, and then it will match to that number, and then return back and say, this is where I found it, in this position down in the row. Well, that's for finding match on row. On column, we're going to go from reference, bore, standard, and oversize so that it can keep track of where it's at. So with that information, if I want to check standard, we're going to start over here and go 1, 2, 3. The standard should be in the the third column over, and oversize would be in the 4th column over. So we're going to find out what row matches our cylinder bore, and then for our cylinder option type, we're going to see which column matches. Now, if I'm finding standard for a 3 1/4 inch bore, I should be 1, 2, 3 columns over, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of the rows down, which if I go over and down, it should say, here's the box that intersects the row and the column, and return back this value right here. Okay, so we're going to do that in our next step, but let's go ahead and see how this works. So I click on row, I hit equals, and I go match, starts putting it in, I double click on match, and it says, what do you want to look at? And I'm going to say, look at the bore size, and actually I'm going to look just like I did on the vertical lookup, use the same information, comma, it's going to say, look at the array, and on this one we want to be able to look and say, going down on the rows here, we're going to say, here is the information, which one of those rows, comma, and then I want to say equal than, or equal to, or greater than, so I put a 1 in there, and I close the parentheses, I go back over, and it says that on this sheet right here, it says that it found that information in the 4th row. Okay? All right, let's find our column here. So same thing, I'm going to hit equals match. Double click here to get my formatting started. What value am I going to look at? I'm going to look at my rod option. And then I'm going to go comma. Go and look at my array over here with my cylinder information. I'm going to go all the way from reference to oversize. I'm going to go comma, and on this one I want an exact match. And I close parentheses, go doop, and there we go. Remember, we said that if we intersected row 3 with column, or row 4 with column 3, that we should get the right information. This is match. It's not used by itself, it's used with index.